start with the brain. Brain is highly efficient. It lays down neural pathways as we learn new things. It looks for shortcuts to save energy and mental capacity, right? And it's programmed for survival. So if you think about once we're in the usual way of doing things, it can see anything trying to become new way of doing things or something that we're learning new. It can interpret it as a threat. And all of a sudden, these neural pathways that we lay down become ruts. It's hard to get out of. And you think about it, right? With kids, that's why it's easier to teach kids at a younger age. They haven't laid them down, and their pathways aren't as deep. So they're not really ruts. They are able to jump between different types of topics and can learn new things. Adults, it becomes a little bit harder, right? Change management is a difficult thing, but we can retrain our mind. We can teach an old dog new tricks. We just have to set priorities. We have to make it a habit, and we have to use the system. So back to the chat, 3 questions for you. 1, do you consider yourself an optimist or a pessimist? Type O or P. 2, how many thoughts a day do you think a person has? And then 3, what percentage of those thoughts are positive? So I'm saying a lot of optimists, 1,000 thoughts, nice. 75,000, nice. 32.5%, that is specific. I like it. 1,000,000 thoughts. Okay, Megan. 1,000. Maybe that's a O for optimist, not 0. Nice. 40,000. 1,000. Yes. I love it. So number 1, only you know if you're an optimist or a pessimist. So I'll take your word at it, you're an optimist. Number 2, depending on the report you see, we can have anywhere from 6,000 to 75,000 thoughts a day. I mean, think about it. When you woke up this morning, you're laying in bed. Did I make coffee? What am I wearing today? Well, what's the weather? What do I want for lunch? I wonder what traffic's like. I got to take the dog out. And that's even before you get out of bed, right? So we've got 86,000 plus seconds in a day. And so you can think about how many thoughts you might have. If you're having a couple thoughts a second or every second, every other second, it gets to the thousands pretty quickly. Now, what percentage of those thoughts are positive? Again, reports will tell you 80% of our thoughts are negative. Negative, which means only 20% of our thoughts are positive. 1 out of every 5 thoughts is positive. So think about it. With all those negative thoughts, can you imagine what that does to us on a daily basis in terms of how we approach life, in terms of how we approach friends, just the mental state that we're in? And that's what we're going to dig into. So what is mental fitness? Mental fitness is your capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. So think about it from a physical analogy perspective. If you're walking up a little hill, you can do that with average physical fitness. Not really a problem. But if you want to climb Mount Everest, you're not going to do that with average physical fitness. And so it's similar with mental fitness. Average thoughts, average events, you can handle that with average mental fitness. But if you have a mountain-sized challenge ahead of you, you can't address that with average mental fitness. Right? Well, if you want to climb Mount Everest, you don't get mad at the mountain for being big. You gotta get your weight up. You gotta get your strength up. You have to get your endurance up. Same thing with mental fitness. You can't get mad at the challenges that we have in front of us. Get your mental fitness up. Right? So maybe you don't want to climb Mount Everest. Maybe it's a 5K. You can't get mad at a 5K for being the distance it is. And increase your endurance, increase your strength so you can tackle the 5K. And so what are the impacts of strong mental fitness? Peak performance. Our highest level of performance comes when we are mentally fit. Peace of mind. Think about it. We all want to have that moment of zen amidst the chaos. Yes, we might be telling ourselves that we work great under pressure and we love it when there's craziness around us. But really, we also always want that moment of zen. And having strong mental fitness can get us to that point of peace of mind. And then lastly, healthy relationships. Whether or not that's a significant other, children, family, friends, your pets, we all would benefit from having healthy relationships. And it all starts from strong mental fitness. So, the secret sauce of mental fitness is this power of factor analysis. And in short, it discovers the root cause of what you're investigating or researching. And then it results in radical simplification of what you're investigating. So, the best example is at the root of thousands of colors are only three factors: red, blue, and green. Right. So, all other colors of the visible light spectrum can be produced by properly adding different combinations of these colors. And it's similar with mental fitness. There are only three core muscles at the root of mental fitness. And again, mental fitness is your capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. And those muscles are the saboteur interceptor, the sage, and the self command. So we'll dig into those now. Saboteurs. We all have saboteurs. They are the mindsets that motivate you through negative emotions. Emotions like fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, insecurity. Like these are the things that we operate from a negative mindset. We call these self-sabotaging behaviors. And we'll get into them specifically. But they negatively impact your performance, your wellness, your happiness, your relationships, your effectiveness. These are the behaviors that are doing damage to all of us, and we all have them. But the priority and the ranking of them is different for everybody. On the other side, we have the five sage powers. They motivate you through positive emotions like empathy, curiosity, creativity, passion, purpose. This is where your peak performance comes from. It's from this positive side of the brain, right? We're in the middle of March Madness. I cannot remember the team, but there was one guy on one team. He was just in a zone. He was hitting from all over the court. He was operating from a sage perspective. He was enjoying the game. He was locked in. He was what they call in the zone. Conversely, you've seen those basketball players who are at the free throw line and choke, right? They're in their head. They can't hit a free throw to save their life, right? That's what it's like when you're operating from your saboteur part of your brain or from your sage part of your brain, right? And so if you think about it, chances are we've been operating from our saboteur part of our brain because one, we didn't even realize it. And two, as you'll see, they can play tricks on us as we go forward. So we talked about the saboteur, talked about sage. Now we have the self-command muscle. And the self-command muscle moves you from the saboteur part of your brain to the sage part of your brain. Right? We want to get away from those 10 saboteurs and move towards the 5 sage. And this is another muscle that we need to strengthen. So we have the saboteur interceptor, the muscle that will intercept those saboteurs. We have the sage, which is the part of the brain where we really want to operate from, which is clear and calm mind, clarity, laser focused action. And then we have that self-command muscle that moves you from your saboteurs to your sage. So saboteurs, sage, self-command muscle moving you between the two. So like I said, we all have saboteurs, just that the ranking of them are different. But the main one is the judge, the master saboteur. And it has 3 modalities, right? Judge yourself, judge others, judge situations. So when you think about judging yourself, it's your inner critic, right? We say we can be our own worst critic. That's what this is saying, right? It's when you talk to yourself, book, you idiot. You did that again. You're not going to be able to do that. That's not going to work. You know you can't do that. It's those types of statements that you tell yourself. You're constantly berating yourself for your past mistakes and your current shortcomings. Mount Everest, I can't climb that. Or 5K, I can't run a 5K. So that's your inner critic, the judge of self. Then you have the judge of others. That's where you're constantly finding out what's wrong with others instead of appreciating them. Oh, that person's too dumb, too slow. They don't know what they're doing, right? You're looking at what's a matter with them, right? Mount Everest again. I know I can't climb Mount Everest, but I knew they can't climb Everest. You know nothing about that person, but you're immediately judging them, right? Or you might be looking at the 5K, but like, I know they can't run a 5K. Look at them. They can't do that. Again, judging others. And then the third is judging situations. And this is where you are constantly finding out what's wrong with the situation. And you won't be happy until the situation changes, until or unless otherwise you're not changing yourself. You're trying to wait on the situation to change. So think about Mount Everest. So why does it have to be so cold? Right? You can't control that. It's the situation. Or 5K, it's too many people. Weather's too hot, right? It's too hilly. Whatever the reasons are, you're judging the situation and not judging yourself. You're always finding fault, either with yourself, the inner critic, you're finding fault with others, or you're finding fault with the situation. Now, we all have, again, this master saboteur, the judge. But then he has accomplices. He or she has accomplices. So we can look at these. And these are the saboteur accomplices. There's 9 of them. But we sort of list them out like a wanted poster. So we can recognize them. We can know the lies that they tell us in our heads. And then we can catch them a little bit faster when they show up in daily life. So you might look at upper left, avoider, focusing on the positive and pleasant, avoiding difficult and unpleasant tasks and conflicts. You just procrastinate, you avoid it. Or you might look at the controller right next to it. Anxiety-based need to take charge and control of situations, right? You always have to be in control. You can't give it up. You always have to be the one that does it. Maybe to the right, you're a pleaser in the middle. Indirectly try to gain acceptance and affection by helping, pleasing, rescuing others, often to the detriment of your own success and to your own satisfaction. Or lower left, restless. You know, you ever know somebody's just busy, just can't ever settle? Like these are the saboteur accomplices to the master saboteur, the judge. And so just knowing these can be a benefit, but knowing which ones impact you the most is really where the knowledge can start to come about. So I took the assessment a couple years ago, and these are my results. Typically, they say focus on the top 3. As you can see, my top 2 are tied, my next 2 are tied, and the 2 after that are close behind. So my saboteurs are rating kind of high. But I'm a hyper-rational, intense and exclusive focus on the rational processing of everything, including relationships. Can be perceived as uncaring, unfeeling, or intellectually arrogant. There are some people on this call who would say, Booker, you didn't need an assessment. I could have told you that. To you, I say, hush. We'll just keep moving on. Okay. Next up is a stickler. Perfectionism and a need for order and organization taken too far, right? Trying to make things too perfect. My next 2 are the avoider, avoiding difficult and unpleasant tasks and conflicts, and then hyperachiever, always having to do more, always looking for achievement as a sign of success. Right, so these are mine. Let's dig a little bit deeper. For each saboteur, you have the characteristics, you have the thoughts of a person has, and then the lies that the saboteur will tell you. So intense characteristics of a hyper-rational, intense and active mind, again, coming across as arrogant or secretive. Private, don't let many people into my deeper feelings. I prefer to just watch the craziness around me and analyze from a distance. Like when I read that, I immediately thought of the Michael Jackson meme where he's eating popcorn and just looking. Yes, I do that. I will just look at you, just eating popcorn, wondering, what are you doing? Right? So those are characteristics of the hyper-rational. What are the thoughts that a hyper-rational person has? Feelings are distracting and irrelevant. You don't need those. Needs and emotions of others distract me from my projects. Again, the people in the chat, I say, hush. And then what are the lies that the hyper rational person saboteur tells you? The rational mind is the most important thing. It should be protected from wasteful intrusion of people's messy emotions and needs. I can outthink anyone. I don't need much or any empathy. Right. So just imagine walking around having the saboteur in partnership with the judge directing how you interact with your relationships, how you are at work, right? How you are mentally. Like these could do some damage if you're unaware of them or don't know how to tame them. The next one, stickler, perfectionism, right? Anxious, trying to make too many things perfect. So, what are the characteristics of a stickler? Can be irritable, tense, opinionated, or sarcastic. Can be highly critical of self or others. Works overtime to make up for other sloppiness and laziness. What are the thoughts that a stickler has? Right is right, wrong is wrong. I know the right way. I hate mistakes. What are the lies that the stickler tells the person? It is a personal obligation for me to fix whatever mess I encounter. I have to do it. Right? There's usually a clear right and wrong way to do things. I know how it should be done, and it must be done right. Again, think about just walking around not knowing you're a stickler, but in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, man, that could be done better. That could be done better. How does that come across with your kids? How's it come across if you're a leader and you're at your team? How's it come across with your friends? Right? These are self-sabotaging thoughts that can truly impact us, our relationships, our mental health going forward. And we need to know what they are and how they rank for each of us. So I just shared the self-sabotaging behaviors. You might be asking yourself, wait a minute. I mean, that seems a lot of doom and gloom, right? But there's got to be some good essence from negative emotions, correct? And so I would say a parallel question to ask is pain good for you? So quickly in the chat, is pain good for you? See, is pain good? Y or N? Sometimes, okay? Depends. Yes. Some pain because it teaches you. Yes, sometimes. No pain, no gain. Like it. Depends on the context. Absolutely. Yes, pain is good. Absolutely. Pain is good. Question really is, but for how long? Right? And the answer is as quickly as it takes for you to get the message so that you can then take action. All right. We've probably all burned our hand or something, right? That pain is great to let you know that you are on a hot surface, you got burned, get your hand off of it so that you can treat it, you can turn the heat down, and so you don't do it again. So, yes, pain is good, but it has a purpose and it has a time limit on it, right? It's the same way. It's good to feel stressed sometimes. You might have a project that you need to complete. You've been lackadaisical. Recognize that the deadline's coming up. All of a sudden, you have some stress, sense of urgency. That's good because now you got to get back on track. So, yes, you can use stress. Yes, you can use pain. Otherwise, you would continue to go down a spiral, right? It's a negative. If you stay in it too long, that negative emotion can have you spiraling, can have you going down a rabbit hole. It can create this sort of vortex of chaos. And actually, it'll cause you to start asking yourself, what else can go wrong? As opposed to, hey, what's the best solution for this? So the short answer, yes, pain is good, stress is good, but it's only as good for you to get action as an alert signal so you can take action. So again, staying in negative emotion hurts the ability to see clearly and respond with empathy, respond with curiosity, creativity, or laser focused action. Your negative emotion is that saboteur. So what you have to do is intercept that negative emotion. Say, hey, you're a saboteur. I don't trust you. You're not my friend. You are here to do damage to me. And then you want to discredit it and then start to move to sage. So the sage is the part of the brain associated with positive emotions, peace and calm, clear-headed focus, creativity, the big picture of how you approach things. That's what the sage is. And when you operate from the sage, instead of looking at things as bad, you look at things as every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift or an opportunity. So imagine thinking, hey, all these things over here are bad, or actually gift an opportunity that I can take advantage of. And this is where we then deploy the sage powers. So you have empathy or empathize, feeling and showing appreciation and compassion for yourself and for others. You have explore, right? So you want to understand a situation more deeply. You want to generate what other things that could work. Innovate. That's where you're inventing what isn't there. So where explore is about discovering what else is there, what is. Innovate is about just is creating what isn't, right? What's a whole new way of doing this? What's a whole new way of approaching this situation? What's a whole new way of interacting with this person that my saboteurs told me is out to get me? Navigate is about choosing between various paths or alternatives that are consistent with your internal compass, that are consistent with your values. And then activate is taking that laser focused action so that you're not distracted by your saboteurs. Right. So you can operate from your saboteur side, or you can operate from your sage side. And what this is showing that there's two places to start from. And depending on where you operate, you're going to have vastly different outcomes in terms of how you operate, in terms of how you perform, in terms of how you interact with others, in terms of how you feel internally from a peace of mind perspective. So what does this all mean as we bring all this together? Again, I want to give you an overview of mental fitness and how some of these things come together. So we all have events that happen every day. An event is a thought, whether or not it's what you're thinking about what you're wearing today, or when you're driving someplace and you're trying to anticipate what drivers are going to do, or you're thinking about how you're going to respond to an email. We have thousands of events that happen every day. And chances are we have a way that we automatically respond either from the saboteur perspective or we react from the sage perspective. The saboteur perspective is saying, this is bad. It's bad. It's bad. You're bad. They're bad. The situation is bad, right? It's the master saboteur, the judge, judging you, judging others, judging the situation, telling you that all of them are bad. Again, the same old rut. So the pathways that we've been doing it this way forever. It's a rut that we're in. What do we have to do? Intercept it. Use the saboteur interceptor muscle to identify the saboteur that's telling us these lies and then start to take action to say, yeah, I'm discrediting you. What you're telling me is a lie. I know there's a better way to do that. That's where the self-command muscle comes in. We've intercepted the saboteur. Now it's time to move the saboteur over to the sage mindset, right? You got to pause, choose what path you want to take, move it to sage. And then that's where we say, hey, this is a gift. This is an opportunity for me to look at things in a different way. This is one of those new pathways that we're laying down, which is tough to do because we have these old ruts because we're doing it the same way over and over and over again. Sage mind is a new pathway. For some, you might already be operating in this way, but maybe not in everything. Maybe there's an opportunity to strengthen your sage even more. Maybe you didn't realize that there were these sage approaches, empathize, right? Innovate, activate that you can take to approach these things in a different way. So a question you have to ask yourself is, When you get to this point, like which way are you going to move? Now that you know we can operate either from the saboteur perspective or we can operate from the sage perspective, which perspective are you going to take? Which path are you going to take? How are you going to strengthen your saboteur interceptor muscle? How are you going to strengthen your self-command muscle to move from saboteur to sage? And how are you going to strengthen your sage muscle going forward? Okay. This is it. This is mental fitness in a page. We have ideas, we have thoughts, we have circumstances, we have an automatic way that we approach it. For most of us, it's from the saboteur's perspective. We have to stop it. We have to identify it. We have to tell ourselves what lies it's telling us, to use a self-command muscle to move to sage, and then we have to address it from a sage perspective. Right? We want to bring those sage powers to handle the situations going forward. Right? This is it. This is if you take nothing else from today, recognize that there are two ways to look at life, from the saboteur, from the sage, and you have the ability to move from one to the other, but all three are muscles that we have to build. All three are within us, but all three are muscles that we have to build. So when we think about the key takeaways for today, I wanted to introduce you to mental fitness. Mental fitness is just as important as physical fitness. And just like physical fitness, you have to start your journey to improve it. And just like physical fitness, it takes effort to build up your mental muscles. It takes time, it takes effort. This is not something that is going to change overnight. But as you said earlier, set the priority, set a framework, have a system. You can do it over time. Wanted to expose you to some new concepts. So question, are you operating from the saboteur region of your brain, or are you operating from the sage region of your brain? And think about, if you're operating from the saboteur, think about what you're missing out. Think about how your performance, how your peace of mind, and how your relationships are negatively impacted because your saboteurs are running rampant, right? You think about, again, a new situation comes up. It's bad. The judge says, hey, you're bad, they're bad, situation's bad. That's bad enough. Then he's like, hey, friends, come on in. Stickler, come on in here, handle that. Hypervigilant, come on in, handle that. Pleaser, come on in, handle that. And just telling lies upon lies upon lies. So you don't even realize that you're operating from this space because of the lies that they're telling you. Now imagine if you were operating from a sage perspective, right? Instead of having saboteurs taking your greatest strengths and turning them into your greatest weaknesses, you can actually operate from that sage perspective. Name the saboteur, tame it, use a self-command muscle, and then operate from sage. So those are some of the key takeaways today as we talk about mental fitness and some of those new concepts. And so connect with me if you're interested in learning more about mental fitness. There is the link for the saboteur assessment. It takes five minutes. And all these concepts that I talked to today are from Shazad Shamim. He used to run the largest training company in the world. He has a book called Positive Intelligence that goes into this deeply. It is validated on hundreds of thousands of people when he was at Stanford and all the testing that he did. So all of these come from his book, Positive Intelligence. And then this link will take you to the website for you to take the self-assessment. Or connect with me if you're interested and want to know about coaching in general. A lot of people don't necessarily think coaching is for them, but as I like to say, even a Rolls Royce needs a tune-up. And so we can all do a little bit there. And definitely at a minimum, either text me or send me an email and give me some feedback on what you learned today, how it resonates with you. Or if you take the assessment, let me know what it is. But I'd love to help you on your journey. So connect with me.